evening. Good evening. My name is Kathy Harris. I'm the president of our Grand Rapids A. Philip Randolph Institute, and I'm also the founder of our Proactive organization. Both organizations are nonpartisan organizations, and we do a variety of community educational activities. But this one is an important one tonight. This is our first time having these women, the women of resilience. These are strong women that have gone through trauma, they have gone through situations, and we want to talk about this. We want to give them the opportunity to talk about and tell their stories, and if they have any information to share with the community. So I appreciate you all being here. Thank you for being here tonight. If you have any questions, please put those questions in the chat as we move forward, and we will begin our show tonight. So again, thank you for being here. I will let each one of the women talk about or introduce themselves, but I will give their name and then turn it over to them and let them just talk about themselves and how they got from the trauma and the things that they've gone through and to where they are today. I'll start with Miss Barbara Thomas. Miss Barbara Thomas is the founder of the House of Victory, and she's also very active in the community, and she has been working with a program called Moms. So, Miss Barbara, if you would please talk about your programs and anything that you would like to share with us to get us started.
Well, my program is a transitional housing program for women who struggle with substance abuse and mental illness. Um, Also, just a mentor in my community, an advocate for women, advocate for people who've been victims of violence and crime.
Okay. Can you tell us about the Moms program?
Okay, the Moms on a Mission program is a program for family and friends and people in general, not just moms, but fathers and as well, who have been impacted by the violence in our communities that may have lost a loved one to senseless violence. And we come together to share our experiences, our strengths, and our hopes with one another, to let the person know that they don't have to walk this tragedy alone, that there are other individuals who have been stricken by the same violence, by the same crimes. And how we get through it is we get through it together. We talk, we share, we cry, we lean on one another, and we try to advocate in the communities to make more awareness surrounding the violence that goes on in our community and how it impacts families and loved ones.
Okay, thank you. There's so many people that think that when something happens that it only affects that person, but it affects everyone. As you just mentioned, it affects the family, it affects the neighborhood, and now we need to come together more than ever to help each other, support each other, and just be there to do whatever we can to lend a hand to help all of those that have been impacted by such things. Um, I'll go to Elder Leslie Matthews. Elder Leslie Matthews is from Detroit area, and she is the director for the Criminal Justice and Faith Program with Michigan United. Elder Leslie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the program that you're working with?
Thank you so much, Ms. Harris, and thank you for inviting me to this wonderful program, especially on International Women's Day. Back in around 2012, I had a son that I adopted. I used to do West African cultural dance professionally. So a young man from Senegal came and was a master teacher, and we just clicked. He became my son, and he became a part of our family. And so he had been here 17 years in my family, living in my house, teaching him skills, how to do work and all, and just navigate, through life. Well, he was trying to get his citizenship and moved. The probation officer or immigration officer was coming here to the house and knew that and was coming here and saw him here, but a mistake in paperwork put him before a judge, and that judge decided not to have any mercy on him and decided that they wanted to deport him after 17 years. So we began that fight with immigration. And needless to say, we began to pick up steam with it, with community organizing, and we lost. We
Mm.
lost that fight. And I didn't know what to do, where to go. And I turned to a local, what I thought was a local community organization, which was Michigan United. Someone recommended that I go to them. And so they helped me to put together a strategy and a fight to try to keep him in the country. After we began to get a lot of publicity, we were on television about it, about this big fight. They deported him.
Wow.
And so I can remember on the floor crying because he was like truly my son, and not taking it very well. And I promised God when I got up off of that floor, I said, you know what? They injured me. They
Mm.
traumatized me. They broke up my family. They separated my family. And I said, this is not justice. And I said, I'm gonna start fighting. And so that's what I did. I began to volunteer with Michigan United. And one of my first campaigns was when they were trying to take the foreclosure period from 6 months down to 2 months. And so every week or every other week, I found myself on a church bus going up to Lansing, having meetings, talking to the people, trying to convince them that this was not the right thing to do to the people. And we won that. We won that. And so, like I said, I told God, I said, I'm getting ready to fight now. And so our next thing was the minimum wage, which we didn't get the $15 that we were shooting for, but we did get the minimum wage. Well, actually it was 12. We did get the minimum wage raised here in Michigan. So I kept on with the work. They decided that, you know what, we're going to bring you out of retirement and bring you into this fight. And so with Detroit, I was able to restore elected power back to our police commissioners that was taken through emergency management. After that, we began to fight for fair housing for returning citizens to make sure that they didn't have to sign a box um, during this interview, that if they had the means and they were employed, that they should be able to live, pretty much where they want to live. So we were successful in that campaign. I think a piece of the biggest work that I did was the First Step Act, which was actually the largest criminal justice reform um, movement in over 30 years. So on the federal level, we were able to pass new laws that actually brought home thousands and thousands of people. So I'm very proud of that. But then I don't know if you all know about a young lady by the name of Centonia Brown. Centonia Brown was a young lady who actually killed the person who she was sold to. And I just thought that was just like so wrong. And many of the movie stars were talking about it. You would read a little bit about it. And there became an opportunity for us to advocate for her and to actually have her sentence commuted. And so we began having those conversations and talking to various people. And someone called me up, and said the governor didn't commute her sentence. And I'm like, what? And they were like, he didn't commute her sentence. I'm like, okay. So I began to make phone calls and I'm like, okay, you go, this person, I need you to go and organize the Congress people. I need you to go and to organize the prosecutors. And we began this grassroots effort. And within 2 weeks, he had changed his mind and he commuted her sentence. So like if it was work that I was really proud of, it would probably be that work right there that no one paid anyone to do, but it was just out of the compassion for what that young woman had went through, to be able to advocate and to fight on her behalf. So currently, as the director of transformative justice at Michigan United, as well as faith and justice, we're working on a campaign, and it is to get good time back in the state of Michigan. So would you like me to continue on, Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're working on good time. Good time is an incentive that is given to people that are incarcerated, that they could get a few days off of their sentence if they take classes, if they're not in any trouble, any altercations while they are incarcerated. Back in 1994, the super crime bill put a provision in there to give money to states that made sentences longer. Michigan was one of those states that took advantage of that extra money, and they began to make sentences longer. One of the young men explained it to me, was like they don't give out single digits, but they've been giving out basketball scores. So in doing that, um, we found that they replaced good time at that time back with what is called truth in sentencing. And so truth in sentencing is purely punitive. There is no incentive to do better. There's no incentive to learn more. You just straight do your time. So what this has done, it has created mass incarceration actually in our state. So people are serving anywhere from 123% of their time all the way up to maybe 140% of their time. Now, this is not right. So what we decided to do, we decided that we were going to ask our lawmakers to pass a law and bring good time back to Michigan. Well, our lawmakers seem to be having a problem with getting that law passed. So we said, as people, you know what, we're going to exercise our right. And so we began to talk about putting that petition together. We put together a petition. And so now we are on a good time initiative drive. We are driving now to get 500,000 people to agree with us that redemption is possible, forgiveness is necessary. And the way that we do that is by signing on that line, on that petition, and saying we want to see this on the November ballot. So that's kind of what good time is in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we have to work very hard here in Grand Rapids to make sure that we get those signatures, and we will be doing that. I have to apologize. I've been having some audio trouble, so I did not get to hear the whole presentation, but I do thank you for the information that you have given and shared with others. And so I would like to move to Ms. Thomas. If you can share your story, um, if you don't mind sharing your story with everyone. Can we hear? I can't hear you. Are you okay? You're not on. Are you on mute? No. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Alder Leslie? You can hear me. This is not going well, but we're going to be okay. Is Miss Barbara coming back? Okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
A little bit. It's kind of
Okay, I can hear you.
okay.
I don't know where the distortion is, but okay, I can hear you now. Okay,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Did you ask the question? Because I
Yes.
didn't hear
Oh, I'm
you.
sorry. Okay, yes. I just wanted you to. And there's noise. Can you all hear that static?
Yeah, we hear that noise, and that's what.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Would like for you to share your story, but I'm gonna try to do something different so you won't hear that noise.
So you say you'd like for me to share my story? Okay, so 1997 was possibly the worst year of my life. My 19-year-old son was shot off his bicycle and killed, shot in the head like a block away from my home, um, for senseless murder. Just the argument that he had got into it with somebody, and the person came back and plotted to kill him. It took almost 8 years for them to solve the murder of my son, but fortunately, praise to God that the murder did get solved. But the trauma behind the murder led me into a life of darkness for many, many years. Um, Prostitution, drug addiction, um, abusive relationships, just a lot of things. Raising two other children that I had as well, trying to do the best I could, being a single mom. Their father was always in and out of prison himself, and that kind of impacted my family because I had all boys. Um, the trauma behind the killing of my son, um, it's just really no clear explanation of how you deal with something like that. But after years of counseling, years of being in groups of grief counseling with other mothers who have been stricken by the same violence, I finally found my way back, being able to uh, challenge the drug addiction. I've been in recovery for over 21 years now, and now I have my own recovery house for women as well. Um, but it was devastating to me. Just trying to figure out why somebody would do something like this. And as you say, as I say, it doesn't just impact the person that was taken. It impacts the person that did it as well, because now that individual is in prison for life, serving a life sentence, never being able to be released from prison ever in life. And so he not only took my son's life, he took his own life. So that's what I mean when I say it's more to it. When a person commits an act of violence and they're not really in the reality realm of thinking, this impacts everybody. It impacted my other children. It impacted my mom. It impacted my sisters and brothers because they had to watch me and my life deteriorate because I couldn't cope. I couldn't accept what had happened. Um, my mom went to her deathbed without knowing that the killer was finally brought to justice, so that impacted me as well, that she never got to see this man being brought to justice for what he had done and what he had took from us. My middle child, he still struggles because he was incarcerated when his brother was killed. So he still struggles to find a way of how to deal with the grief and how to deal with that his brother was taken away from him and that he couldn't do anything because he was locked up. I thank God that he was locked up so that I didn't end up with two children taken away from me. But these acts of violence commit so much trauma for years. I didn't feel safe in my own home because this incident happened like not even a block away from my home. And prior to it, my house had been broken into. So I don't even know if this guy had broken into my home looking for my child. I don't know. But I struggled with even just being able to live in my own home comfortably, watching over my shoulder, never knowing what possibly could happen because what happened to my child. Um, Trying to be a parent, a mom to my other two children as well. My mom had to basically take custody of my youngest child because I was in no mental shape to take care of them. I was just lost at the fact that I had lost my child. So this violence in our communities, it it doesn't just stop with the person that is impacted by it. It trickles down from from one family member to another family member to another family member. And it just continue. And even in our communities where these children are going out and they're shooting and the little kids can't play outside, they're not safe outside. So then we confine them to the home where they feel like they can't even have a life anymore because you got to keep them in the house to keep them safe. So it's just so much to this violence, as well as the prison part. Like I said, in my journey, I was in prison for some time, got released, had to figure out how I'm going to take care of my kids. How do I regain my life back? I mean, I have a felony on my record now. It's hard out here to get a job. The most job that you're going to get is a McDonald's job. That if you are a person that has to pay child support taking the majority of your money. So how do you pay rent? How do you buy food? How do you pay for gas in your car? There's so many components to this when you get out of prison of trying to establish your life back. When the defeating demeanors are against you, as far as you have a felony on your record, you got to pay the courts for oversight fees for people. The correction officer who is your parole officer, you got to pay fees to them, you got to pay child support, you got to pay this. How do you do that? Where do you start? When you can't even get housing, if you don't have a stable home to live in, how are you going to even begin to get your life back together? There's just so many forces that against it. And when the young lady was talking about bringing back the good time, that's the start, for these people to get out. But even when they get out, the other thing is now that they have renewed some laws that's giving them back their licenses where they don't have to pay all this money to get their license. I mean, you in prison or you calling somebody calling you from prison, you got to pay for that phone call. You put money on somebody's books, you gotta pay a $7 fee to put money on that books. That's just ridiculous. There's so many components that keep you defeated in your struggle. And people who are out here committing the crimes, there's people that's not committing the crimes, but the family members. We suffer from that.
You. Now, in having to hear your stories, what, how has your program, can you
I
hear me with,
barely can hear you.
okay, I don't know what's going on with this, but can you hear me now?
Can you speak up just a little bit? It's just that static that's in there.
The sound is bad. I've changed computers. I've taken everything I can. Oh, I don't know what else I can do.
Okay, well,
Okay.
what were you asking me?
I'm just asking you what your program, how has the program that you're working with gotten you through this?
So for me, now that I have my program, helping other women who struggle with addiction, who have been released from prison, and don't know a lot of the resources, my program, for me and my struggle, learning a lot of the resources that's out there for these women, to be able to direct them to those resources, to be able to help them utilize these resources, because a lot of people are inferior because they can't read or they can't write or they don't comprehend, they don't understand. So with my program, I have other mentors who are able to help these women. I match them with a young lady, and whatever their need may be or whatever they may need help with, whether it's computer illiteracy, whether it's, maybe like, oh, housing, so we can direct them to the Salvation Army. We can direct them to community rebuilders and things like that. So to show them, nothing happens overnight. Nothing's going to happen overnight. But if you maintain, your direction of where you want to go, like you say, I'm not where I used to be. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. And that's a saying that I teach the girls is, you know, you might not be where you want to be right now, but you ain't where you used to be. You're not sitting in a prison. You out here, and it gets better with time. So helping them to know that, like, what I did. I went back to school at the age of 47, gained my degrees, my degree in sociology from Grand Valley State University, and I teach them. You can do the same thing. You don't have to stay stuck, you know. We don't have to let these instances or our bad choices hold us captive for the rest of our lives. So we're teaching them that, teaching them life skills, you know, how to put together a resume, how to interview in an interview, you know. Um, Nobody gets it right all the time, you know. You got it, it's a learning process. And that's what I teach through my program. It's the learning process, and I'll help you if you want to be helped, you know. It's like sometimes, you know, when the women they struggle and they fall down, they don't want to get back up and they want to keep using. I give at least 3 times. 3 strikes you out. You know, you can go out and use and come back and say, Miss Barb, I messed up. I messed up this time, you know, because somebody did that for me. Somebody reached their hand out and pulled me up from the gutter, you know. And I can remember the day I I don't like to say bargaining with God, but it was. I was in a prison cell and I was at my lowest. And I reached out to God and I said, Lord, if you help me, I'll never touch another drug in my life. I'll never use again. And since that day, I've never used again. And I share that with these women so that they can gain the same kind of strength that I gained. To know that me going back to school at the age of 47, it wasn't easy. I was in those classes with these high school students straight out of high school who knew how to use a computer and was just going with it. And I'm coming in the lab every day. Can you show me this again? I forgot how to do this. But at the end of the day, I was making the dean's list at the same time. So to show them, lead by example, not to knock nobody down, but to pull them up because somebody pulled me up. And that's what I teach in my program. In the mentoring with the young women, like I said, I did a Teen Moms program working with women, working with young ladies who had babies that didn't have shelter, that didn't have housing, you know. And they still, you know, thinking like, oh, weed ain't nothing. Pardon? So, you know, I mean, everybody wants to do what they want to do. The young women in the Teen Moms program, they wanted to continue to smoke weed because they didn't see how that was hindering them. Because the law said weed is legal. You know, everybody said, okay, it's not harmful, it's not hurting me. Okay, but you got a baby. You want to teach these babies the same thing, to smoke marijuana, that it's okay, that's all right behavior, you know. But some of them, they still reach out to me. They still struggling, but then some of them have gained their own housing. They got their jobs, they got their cars, and they reach out and they come back and they say, Miss Barb, I just love you. Had it not been for you, I just talked to a young lady who just lost her 2-year-old baby by the hands of his father. He shot this 2-year-old baby and killed this baby, you know, and right now she's struggling with why. Why did he take my baby away from her? That baby was that girl's life because he brought her from that baby brought her from an addiction, you know, and gave her a reason to thrive even more. She just had a new baby, and that new baby is doing the same thing for her, but the trauma from this incident. But what my purpose in saying this is, just weeks before that happened, she had inboxed me and said, Miss Barb, I love you to death. When I tell my story, I'm going to be sure to tell the story about the lady named Miss Barb, you know. But that's where I get my consolation from, is to know that even just loving on somebody the way somebody loved on me and picking somebody up off the ground like somebody picked me up off the ground, it can help, you know. But we still, like the young lady was saying, we got a long fight. We fighting against the people who want to keep our young black men in these prisons for years, you know, with basketball numbers, you know, when they in there, then when they get out, they still got the struggle. The struggle is real.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing it.
Elder
Mhm.
Leslie, can you have something? Can you add to that? Can you? I don't know, adding to her, not to add to her story, but to share some light on
Well,
her situation.
Miss Barbara, you're what we call a political healer. That's what we call you. We call you a political healer. You bring trauma into the public arena. And that's what we have to do more of. And it's like, it's amazing because you're on both sides of that spectrum, right? You
Mhm.
yourself went in and you served some time. You come home, you have a son that's currently incarcerated, but then you also suffered violence, you know, um, in your community with the loss of your son. And for you to be where you are, to me, that's really amazing. And I think about, why is this so hard? Why is it so hard to live? The only thing most people want to do is live, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like the powers that be do everything that they can to hinder us living. You said, if you got that F word on your record, that felony, right? That most of the time, the only thing you can get is a McDonald's job. I, I want to share a little story with you. On October the 6th, 2020, I was a victim of a crime. Someone that I let in my house through a recommendation of a friend who actually had been working at the house for about 3 months decided that he was going to come and rob me. Now, let me give you a little background to that. He was on struggle. He was so proud. He said, Miss Elder, he said, I have a job now. I said, well, that's wonderful. He said, so I won't be able to do as many things around the house for you. He said, but I'm going to do some things. I said, okay. That man worked a month in the hole. He was at the share house, and the company that he worked for, the state of Michigan, took his wages for back child support. He had something that he was obligated to do. And he told me, he said, if I don't get this money, I won't have a place to stay. And I said, okay, let's see what we can do. I knew he was on struggle. His probation officer should have known he was on struggle. The place where he was staying should have known he was on struggle. He didn't understand how he was going to get out of the difficulties that he found himself in. And so I was like, oh my goodness. I said, we have to really, think about how we can work this thing out, right? And so I knew. And the day that he came in and attacked me, I wanted to be very angry with him. I did. I could have lost my life. He had a weapon on me, and it was nothing but the grace of God that allowed me to get out of that situation and run for my life out of my house. And he went back, and at first, I was angry, but I was talking with a couple, lawyers and everything today. And we were just talking about like the situations that people come home into. And I said, why is it that we are not supportive of people when they come home? What's the problem there? Why can't we figure out programs that will be a stair-step program up? Why are we expecting people to pay $50,000 or $100,000 debt from child support the moment they get home? Why are we doing that? Women that come home with children. Most people don't even realize that if those women don't have running water, some cans of food in their house, and someone calling them, those kids automatically are going to child protect. They're being taken, going into foster care. What are we doing to try to shore up and support people when they do come home? To me, that to me, that's a problem. But the even bigger problem is, what are we doing with them while they are incarcerated? From the day that they get a number and the day that thing slams, that gate slams, we should be about the business of making sure that whatever was missing and insufficient in their life, that we begin to work on that then. So that when they come out whole individuals. They going in there traumatized as it is, because something caused them to do whatever it was that they did. Something caused that. And we never talk about root causes. We always talk about the manifestation of what happened, but we never talk about what is the root cause. Why did that person do that? Nobody is interested in that. You know, what led you, to get into trouble that you got into? What is it we could have done as a community to support you, so you didn't have to feel like you had to do the things that you did that ultimately caused you to have to be incarcerated?
So, what's the answer to that? Is there an answer to that? What can we do as a community?
I think that we're going to have to take a deep dive into what is justice for real. Because one of the things that I realize is that even though that young man that person has went back because he violated probation, I don't get any comfort from that. I've never got any comfort from anybody being punished. And so when I look at solutions, I think that first thing we have to do is stop lying to ourselves. We cannot lock away the bad things that we may have created. We gotta look at what we're doing. Anytime a 12-year education from kindergarten to 12th grade is a little over $100,000, but then you look at how much it costs to incarcerate a person for 12 years and it's closer to $500,000, something is wrong. Something is wrong. Something is wrong when you talk about housing young people, what they term as juvenile delinquents, right? You house them, and those figures are even higher. You're looking at $100,000 almost to house one person in the juvenile delinquent system. Something is wrong. So I think that the way that we are trying to throw money at our problem to get rid of it, we need to look at that. We need to look at who's making the money incarcerating the people. We need to look at prison gerrymandering. Is it something that we're doing that is incentivizing people to send people to certain areas of our state? We need to look at that. Yeah. We need to look at the fact that we have certain counties that sentence people a certain way if they don't look like them. That needs to be looked at. What are we doing? I have a young man right now. He was 15 years old, sentenced as an adult. He shot a gun. The bullet ricocheted off the wall, hit the man in the toe. Hit the man in the toe. So they sentenced him. You want to know how many years the judge gave him?
What?
100.
How many? You said how many years?
They gave him 100 years. His name is Eugene Love. 100 years.
The bullet ricocheted and hit the man's toe.
Hit the man's toe. 100 years. He's gone back, and each time he's gone back, they've reduced it by 10 years. So right now, he has around 75 years. Right now. He was 15 years old when this happened. And I think right now, today, he's 54 years old. That is cruel and unusual punishment. And there's many, many, many more. There was a young man by the name of Lyles Bay who challenged Michigan on good time. He and a set of other prisoners. He went to the parole board and he said to them, he said, I think my time should have been calculated under good time. And they said, well, we don't know about that, but we'll check it out. 3 days later, they sent him a letter and said, you're free to go. He spent 22 years over the time that he was supposed to spend in that jail. 22. So we need a total revamping of the justice system. A total revamping. We have to look at everything. We need to go back and look at sentencing and see if the sentencing that people received, was it because the length of the sentences, was it because they were a woman? Because people don't realize this, and this is International Women's Month. Mm-hmm. Women receive longer sentences for similar crimes than men. They receive longer sentences. Was it because of your race? So there's a lot of fixing that needs to be done.
And you're absolutely correct. And I've been hearing more stories after stories of how wrong the system is or how the treatment has been. And it's unbelievable. And you are correct. It's, depending on where you are, and we're in Kent County. You're in the Detroit area, Wayne County. Mm-hmm. So Kent County versus Wayne County is already a problem. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? So in Wayne County, the treatment is one way, Wayne County, but in Kent County, we definitely have some issues that we have to deal with in Kent County. Mm-hmm. The system here is just, there are so many issues. Ms. Barbara Thomas, you can chime in on this if you want to. The system here in Kent County needs a whole lot of work for our people.
Yes, they do.
I don't know. It's just you don't know where to start. It's either
because she was saying it starts in the judicial system for one. We have judges who are unfair, who just slam the gavel because they can slam the gavel. But also, like I worked inside the juvenile detention, the underlying problems that these kids, nobody is asking them what's going on in your home that's making you do what you did. Nobody is saying, is this child being molested in her home by her stepdad? These are the horrific stories that I heard when I was going into the juvenile detention center doing groups, life skill groups. And, then they come out and they be like, oh, Miss Barb, you just don't know, and they tell these stories. But did your judge know this? Did your pre-sentence investigator know this? Did they hear? Did you tell them? And sometimes it's too shameful to talk about. That's what's going on, especially if it's a boy that's being molested as a child. Just as well. It's just as horrific as a woman, but still, if it's a boy that's being molested, or they're in the home and their mom's boyfriend is beating them half senseless and not letting them eat and locking them in a bedroom or locking them in a closet. These are the underlying things that start with these teens going out here and say, if you can't be raised in your home, you're going to be raised by the streets. And the streets is telling you that in order for you to eat, you got to kill or be killed. You go out here, you kill somebody to show me how dedicated to this gang that you was dedicated to. That's just like if you was dedicated to your mama. And these kids are being brainwashed and they going out here and they doing this stuff. But even with the judicial system, when they get in the judicial system, nobody is asking these kids, okay, so what possibly led you to pick up a gun? How did you even get hold of a gun? Where did you even know where a gun was at? How did you pay for this gun? Who gave you this gun? Nobody is asking the underlying questions here. It's just slam the gavel, send them on their way because there's a dollar to be made. Like I said, me just sending my nephew some money today, this morning. I'm sending $50, but there's a $7.95 charge just to send this money. When I put money on the phone, they charging me to put money on my own phone to accept the collect call. Everything has a price. So this is what it come to, that it's all about making a dollar, where the state can make money off of these people. So the more we put in there, the more money we gonna make. And people need to start asking questions about why this is happening, why this is being allowed. But if people
How do
just keep
how do we
turning their,
change that? How,
pardon?
people are asking the question, and I know we know the answer, but how do we the answer to how do we make this? How do we change that? So if
I
you
mean, we
could,
got to stand together. We got to come together, number one. And like I
okay.
said, people got to start asking questions. We got to start petitioning our legislators who are making these laws. You know, the ones who are putting these things, and people just signing papers and don't know what they signing, and then this go into effect. This law goes into effect, and we don't even know nothing about it until it's happening to our own individual family. But when
And that's
people start questioning and people start petitioning these legislators, why is this happening? Why do we got to pay money to put money on a phone that's my phone? I'm already paying a phone bill. Now I got to pay a double phone bill. But if people don't start asking questions and people just turn a deaf ear to it, it ain't bothering me. It ain't happening to me. So why should I
right.
care? But when you've been affected by somebody shooting your child dead, then you start asking questions. Because that's what I did when my son was shot, and everybody said, just be quiet, leave that alone before something happened to you. No, I was in contact with the detective over my son's murder the whole 8 years that this dude ran free. He would call me or I would call him. And the day that he went to Detroit to pick this dude up, he called me. He said, Merry Christmas, Miss Thomas. We got him. He said it was a long time coming, and it's your Christmas present. But I'm on my way to Detroit to pick him up. He's reporting to his parole officer, and they've been told to detain him. This dude went into his parole officer because he knew one day, looking over his shoulder, they was coming after him. You know, he thought he had beat that murder. He paid prosecutors, he paid lawyers, he paid people to say he was here when he was there. It was something like, the judge said it was something like out of a movie what this dude did. You know, but I never gave up. I never stopped talking to Detective Betts. Detective Betts went there. He said, Miss Thomas, when I got there, he said this dude had told his wife to park by the door because he knew something possibly was going down, because they told him to come down. He needed to come and report. So he told her if she had a did what he told her to do and park by that door, he possibly would have got away. But because she went to go find a parking space somewhere else, when he ran out of the parole officer, he had to look for a car, and that helped his parole officers, her co-workers, jumped him and brought him back in the building. This dude had a golf ball size of dope in his pocket and a gun and a handcuff key, you know. But Detective Betts, he said it all the time. I knew he was guilty. I knew he was guilty. He said, but I needed more people to pick up. We had to subpoena people who he paid for their lawyer when they got in trouble, you know, so that they wouldn't tell on him that he wasn't where he said he was, that where the gun got threw up in the trash on Franklin and Eastern, behind the old Kent Bank. Oh, it was just horrible how he had a lawyer out of Detroit named, I forgot, this Land Lorray or something. This man was running around paying people for this boy, you know. But people were saying, be quiet, leave it alone, don't talk. Said until it hit your home. When it hit your home, you ain't gonna be too quick to say, be quiet, don't say nothing. So like my kids will come over here, Mama, get out that window. You always in something. You always calling the police. You watch, right? The people next door, they just bought a house. The door was open, like somebody went in there, was living in there, or, you know, finding some shelter in there. I found a way. the old landlord that had the house. I called him who sold the house, and he called them. Just the other day, the lady came up. She said, "Are you the neighbor that called the police?" And when my door was open over here, I said, "I sure am." I said, "Don't you see them cameras up there?" I said, "I see everything and I tell everything because when people should have talked for 8 years, they didn't talk. The girl where my son's body laid in her yard, and I understood and I forgave, because she had two babies. She said she jumped on the floor when she heard the gunshot, so she didn't see nothing. She wasn't looking out no window, and I believe her, because if I would have heard a gunshot, but what she did know, she still was scared to come forward and tell for 8 years. And then the boy who drove the car, he said he just indirectly became a victim because he know how it is when you're hanging out on the street late in the morning, you need a ride. This guy asked him for a ride. The guy was telling him, go this way, go this way, go this way. And then when he got to where he seen my son riding the bike, pop, 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 the dude that was driving said he froze because he thought he was next. He left and went to California for 5 years. But it was all about the silence. I don't believe in silence. I believe in talking. I believe you tell what you see. You know, I mean, we can't get nothing done if we keep our mouth shut. As they say, closed mouth don't get fed. My son's murder would have never got solved if I would have kept my mouth closed. Every time somebody was telling me something, I was feeding it to the detective. Well, I heard this. Well, I heard he was in Grand Rapids today. My son got killed. He was trying. He did a 3-way call from Detroit. Had somebody call him on a 3-way phone from Detroit. Called my niece, who he didn't know at that time was my son's first cousin, and was trying to make it look like he was in Detroit, so that when he killed my son, it wouldn't go back to that he was here. It was so many components to this murder that this dude was like he had just said that. So when he did that, he got away with it before. He got away with it, but he didn't get away with it this time. God said, "Vengeance is mine," and He vindicated my son's murder. And that's what allowed me to breathe today. That's what allowed me to pick myself up off that floor and move forward to help other women and other people who struggle of being a victim of violence or being a victim of crime or just being a victim, period. For life on life terms. It's hard out here. And when you got to come from a prison, where you just been at the lowest you could be, and then come out here and deal with this where it's just as even low, some people just get so depressed they're ready to die. It's like, I'd rather be dead than to go through this, you know. But like I said, right now, there's some things in place with them, expunging records, with them doing the forgiveness on the licenses where people can get back and forth to work. They can get back and forth to work. Before they couldn't get back and forth to work because of this law, because they being made to pay all of these responsibility fees. How you gonna pay some responsibility fees when you can't even get a roof over your head? It's all about the money. And people need to start making noise about why is this? If you want to help somebody, truly, truly want to help somebody, you're going to find a way to help somebody and not keep putting all of these hardships in a way where they got to try to climb a mountain to get there. It shouldn't be that hard. I can't hear. I can't hear.
Mute. There we go. Can you hear me now? All
Can
right.
you say that again?
Yes, I will. You said something a few minutes ago about you know making changes and holding them accountable. It's very important that we get our people registered to vote and to get out to vote. But it's
Mm-hmm.
also just as important to hold those officers, those legislators, those politicians accountable
Mm-hmm.
about, they want these positions. They come in our face, they come in our communities, they come into our churches saying, I'm going to do all these things. But if we don't hold them accountable, they're going to just say these things to us and then we don't hear from them anymore until it's time to vote again.
Right.
And this goes to you also mentioned about the petition that Elder Leslie talked about a few minutes ago. And I would like for you to reiterate that fact or that information again so that everybody can hear again how important it is when you see us out in the communities asking for your signatures for this petition, why it's important, and how those changes affect what you're doing and your families and the neighbors and the community. So if we're close to the end, so I'm not going to take up a whole lot of time, but if you would just again talk about the importance of holding those legislators, those politicians accountable, and how important it is to get out the vote, and register to vote, and then get out and vote.
Okay.
Either one of you can, if you want to take that one.
So it's very important to get out and vote, but it's also very important to read what you're signing. You know, when them people come up in your face standing at a grocery store where they know you in a hurry to get in and get out. So you just sign the paper because of mouth, word of mouth, or what they saying is on this paper. No, let me read what I'm signing first. Because you don't know what you're signing. You might be signing the opposite of what you think you're signing. So it's very, very important to read first of what you're signing. But it's also very, very important to get out there and vote for the people who gonna be for the people, not for the people that just want to get in those positions and then, like you said, they ain't doing nothing until it's time to re-vote again. You know, we have to make sure in our community, like you said, they come in our churches, they come everywhere, in our schools, everywhere, in our communities, and they advocate for themselves, and that's what it's about themselves. It's not about us. And we, as a people, as a community, have to be aware of that, and we have to make sure that when we voting, when we out there voting, and that we need to vote. If we don't vote, then it's like saying we don't care.
Our community don't understand those. Like you mentioned about those charges. You got to pay to talk to somebody. You got to pay for this. You got to pay for that. All those fees came from somewhere, and those
Mhm,
things can be changed by the
mhm,
legislators. Those can be changed by our lawyers. I mean, our state reps. But
mhm,
if we don't get out and vote, if we don't
mhm.
get the right people in office, if we don't keep those people that are fighting for us in office, they're gonna come up with some more stuff. And it's
That's
going, we got to start making a difference. And
that's
this year is
true.
very important.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Miss Harris, I've been around the corner for a minute, and I think voting is super, super important. It's very, very important. I voted since I've been 18 years old. I've voted. We can vote in the person who has our morals and our values, but they're only one person. They have to win more than once. Yes, if they win the election, they represent us or should be representing us. But then the other thing is they need to win through their relationships with other lawmakers because one person can't change the law. It's got to be a group of like minded people that can change the law. So if we have communities that are diametrically opposed to one another, then I don't think it would be easy for us to get the kind of laws that we want to get. That's why it's important that we build statewide power. It just can't be about Kent County. It can't just be about Wayne County, Detroit, Kalamazoo, Berrien County. It really needs to be statewide power. It needs to be people coming together in a like-mindedness, morals, values, worldview. They come together and say, this is what we want the state of Michigan to look like. We want to decarcerate our state. We want to have less taxes in our state, whatever it may be. We all need to be in agreement because if you send someone up to Lansing who doesn't make friends, don't have relationships, then how do we expect them to pass a law? When is the last time anyone has asked the person that they dutifully elected, what law have you passed in the last 2 years? We don't hear that. We don't ask those kind of questions, and we need to. We don't need to send them up there and say, now go and do this job. We need to send them up there, and then we need to be behind them in a loud voice telling them, like, this is what we want to do. And we need everybody around them to see, oh, well, they got thousands of people saying that when people get out of prison, give them a driver's license. Or they got hundreds of thousands of people that are saying if a person is indigent, that they should not have to come up with cash bail. They get away with it because it's like they're looking at one person and not the people that is behind that one person. So really and truly, I think that we need a party that represents the people, that fight with the people on behalf of the people, that sets up a platform that supports the life of all people equally. And then maybe we can make some changes, because when you think about some of those counties and where you have these prisons, their only industry is human bodies. And they're not about to let you take that, because that's their livelihood. And so I think that we got to look at things realistically and understand what it is and who it is that we're fighting and why we're fighting it and what's at stake. And I'll tell you what's at stake. Our communities are at stake. If we continue to take the majority, over 20% of our budget and put it into corrections, schools are not going to get fixed. Communities are not going to be shored up. Roads are definitely not going to get fixed. So we need to look at doing things a different way, because what we're doing now is broken. It's not working. Ms. Harris.
It's not working. It's definitely not working. And so we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do in Kent County, Wayne County, Genesee County, Ingham County, all the counties across the state of Michigan. We as a people have work to do. We have to hold them accountable. We
Yeah.
have to get out the vote and hold them accountable once they get in office, whether we voted for them or not. Whoever's there, we need to hold them accountable for the work
Yes.
that they're doing for us.
Yes.
And
There's a whole workforce that's locked up right now in Jackson
exactly.
prison. They talked about worker shortage. We got workers here. You locked them
Right.
all up.
Right. You know, the prison, putting our people in prison is just making money for somebody else. That's all they're doing, is making money. It's a private industry, and they're taking advantage of our people. They're making money on the backs of our people when they could be doing something else. You know, sure, they did something wrong. Yes, they have to pay the consequences, but do something. Do something with that life, not just let them just sitting there is not doing it. You know, they need to do something. You know, like you said, it's a whole workforce. So, in closing, it is after 6 o'clock, 6:10. Take the last few minutes and wrap this up. I'm not sure if there's any questions out there, but if we can ask Elder Leslie if you can talk about the petition one more time.
So we need you all to get out there. You can go to www.goodtimeinitiative.org. That's www.goodtimeinitiative.org. You can sign up to collect petition signatures. You can sign up to be a distribution place. You can sign up to be a volunteer on the campaign, making phone calls, doing social media, raising money for the campaign. We just want to get you involved. So you can do that all over the state. We have sign up points all over the state. So we welcome you to go to www.goodtimeinitiative.org. You can also find us on Facebook, Good Time Initiative on Facebook. Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Thank you. Can you explain one more time what Good Time is all about?
So good time is a reduction of time. It's not giving people any free time. Good time is time earned. That means that they have put in some work. They've gone to school. They have not gotten into any trouble. They've done what they were supposed to do, and they get a few days off of their sentence. So rather than just be punitive and say, okay, you're in here and in here for the duration, what Good Time says is you're in here. If you show us that you're making an effort to do better, to make better decisions in life, we're going to give you a few days here and a few days there off of your sentence. That's in a nutshell what Good Time is.
Thank you very much. So So, Sister Barbara, we have some work to do in Kid County. You're going to have to be on our team to collect some signatures. We're going to have to get some people together, some community leaders, advocates together, and get out and get some signatures. So I do have some petitions so we can get started real soon. And then I would like for you to wrap it up, if you would, please, Ms. Barbara. Let us know what we need to do better as a community, what you've done, and what we need to do to help you. Just give us some good words as a community.
Like I said,
No, we can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
not too small, not too little. Also, to get out, like she said, and sign these petitions for the good time to bring our men home, our black men home. Um, it's not nothing that one person can do. It's going to take a village and a multitude of people to help change the things that need to be changed.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on tonight. And we will end this.
I can't.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You can hear me. Okay. I just want to say thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time to be in with us tonight and having this conversation. We will be in touch with you, and I will definitely reach out to you for our next conversation and to pursue the petitions with the good times. I do have a meeting coming up about it, and Ms. Barbara, I'm going to make sure you include it over here in King County, and I do have some for Wayne County as well. So we'll be working on pushing that one. But I just want the community to know that we have to stick together, we have to work together, we have to come together as one in order to make some changes here in King County and the state of Michigan. So thank you again. I appreciate your time. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.